Tonight, we're talking all about working and why it sometimes sucks. Everything from applying to a job and interviewing for a job to actually working a job and everything in between. It's going to be a good one tonight, folks, so stay tuned. Roll the music. What's going on? It's Dapper Don, and I am excited to welcome you all back. So, working, getting a job, slaving for the man. Despite what some of your basement dwelling friends may tell you, you unfortunately do need to work to survive. It's a basic truth of life, like the need for food or the presence of a Karen at a coffee shop. And with prices going up the way they are, you either work or you don't eat. Gone are the days when you could walk into a gas station with $1 and come out with a honey bun and a large bag of chips. Gone are the $1 McChicken meals, complete with fries and a drink. I remember I walked into one McDonald's and asked them what happened to the dollar menu because I hadn't been to the McDonald's in a while. And the manager told me that they replaced it with the value menu, which basically means that they can't really guarantee that things are going to be $1. I told her that was some McBill and that I was McTired of the McShit, and I still got a McChicken anyways, because I mean, I was hungry, but it was still some bull. I was still very mad. Anywho, with the increased necessity to work and the employee shortage created by the 2020 pandemic, you'd think companies would be open to all comers and that it would be easier to get and keep a job than ever before. Yeah, that's where you'd be wrong. Today, we're going to take a look at what the average worker has to go through when applying for, interviewing for, and working a job that makes the process extremely stressful. Not sexful. What the fuck? I mean, if only there was sex involved. Anywho, let's dive right in. Job hunting. So, I'm going to be honest here. When it comes to actually searching for a job, you're really only limited to a few responsive options. And I say responsive, but despite these options being more likely to get a response, doesn't necessarily mean that they will. And in my experience, they often don't. And mind you, I have a great resume. Don't doubt the power of my resume. Oh, I've got the best resume. But anywho, those options are Indeed, the actual company site, going in person and asking a worker, or going to an open interview. We'll get into a lot of the problems with these in a moment, but first, I want to take a look at an article that I feel illustrates the overall issue. This article talks about one person's struggle to even get a job at a McDonald's. Opening it up here. There it is. It's an article by Your Tango, Revolutionizing Your Relationships, by John Sundholm, written on October 16th of 2024. So it's recent-ish. Job seeker asks why it's so hard to find a job after not even being hired at McDonald's. I've applied to everything. It's not just you. The job market really is a huge mess. Given the rosy economic news we've recently gotten, inflation stabilizing, wages up, layoffs down, and unemployment falling after rising for months, you'd expect things to improve for those on the job hunt. But the disconnect between the data and job seekers' experiences could not be more stark. One worker on Reddit shared an experience that all too many will identify with. They've thrown absolutely everything they can think of at the wall and nothing is stuck, not even fast food. If you're scratching your head about this, you are not alone and you are definitely not imagining things. A worker asked why it's so hard to find a job after being rejected by McDonald's. The Redditor wrote that they're 23 and do not have a college degree, a double whammy of sorts for job seekers right now, even as many companies claim to be scrapping their degree requirements and focusing on skills instead. They aren't. Don't let anyone fool you into thinking they are. And even when you get a job, don't let anybody tell you, oh, you don't need college, we're all the college you need. There is no good company that is scrapping their degree requirements. Are they more skill focused within that degree to kind of distinguish people with degrees from each other? Absolutely. But they are not scrapping their degree requirements anytime soon. Because if they scrap their degree requirements, then that would eliminate the need to go to college. And that would keep the state from getting a lot of money from college tuition. So they're not scrapping their college requirement. That's not happening. All of this stuff exists in like a big, like, monetary conglomerate. They're not scrapping one of their biggest money makers. They're just not. I have experience in lots of different fields, the Redditor wrote, but I have been applying for jobs for 8 to 12 months. They're doing everything we're all told to do, tailoring their resumes and cover letters to the job description, including keywords for applicant tracking systems, and relentlessly applying, but nothing seems to be working. The job seeker is beginning to feel desperate because of how few interviews they've gotten. Is no one actually hiring? I'm getting really tired and don't know what to do, they admitted. Getting rejected by McDonald's, likely for being too experienced, seems to have really thrown them for a loop. I can't even get an interview with them, they wrote. I am so frustrated and tired, and I don't know what else I can do. They did have something of a bright spot in the past month, getting 5 interviews compared to 0 for the previous 8 months, but none of them went anywhere. My life has been on pause for 8 to 12 months, they wrote. I've been stressed about bills and expenses. There's not enough money. It's left them stressed to the point that their hair is literally falling out. Why won't anyone hire me? And that kind of illustrates the problem that a lot of modern job seekers are kind of going through right now. And the article then goes on to explain that with the increased hiring after the pandemic, bloating a lot of companies with lower paid workers and various higher paid departments like management and HR suffering layoffs, there's a lot of applications with very few people to review them. So you essentially have to do a lot more to stick out now. And they can get a lot more petty with who they choose to hire and not. Like, for instance, being too experienced for a job. I know that's been a problem for a while, but we've seen an uptick in that you're too experienced for a job. And that's because the company doesn't want to have to pay you more, is really what the root of it is. But yeah, you have to do a lot more to stick out now. And that's where those 4 options come in, because those are the most likely to get responses. But there are problems with even the options that are likely to get a response. For example, Indeed and online applications in general. I'm pulling up right now a Reddit thread that talks about the ugly truth of Indeed in HR viewpoint. This is somebody that actually works in human resources. And it's in r/recruiting hell by user black BLAQ underscore sheep 90. I've spent years on both sides of using Indeed. Here is everything you need to know. May apply to other job sites. Indeed is just a glorified parasite of a website, and most of the jobs you find on there are false doors. Indeed works by scraping hundreds or thousands of other websites for real job postings and recreates the information as a new job in its own format. An overwhelming majority of jobs posted here are clones. Applying to these clone jobs does absolutely nothing. Nobody receives your information. They are a fake it until they made it success story of sharing near false information to draw the crowd and then charge companies for legitimate direct postings and charge recruiters for access to applicant resumes and information. Which means that so basically what this article what this redditor is saying is that there are like ghost posts, right? That you can apply for a bunch of jobs on Indeed and not get hits because probably about 90% of them aren't even direct like applications. Some companies are tapped into Indeed, but a lot of them aren't. And this can be evidenced when you like go in to a company, right, and say, "Hey, I applied on Indeed." And they're like, "We didn't receive that." That's probably because they aren't paying for the other features that include accessing applications and things of that nature. They aren't paying for that, and they refuse to when you can just apply on their site. But anywho, yes, you can still find some legitimate postings on there. Consider closer looks at sponsored positions. Companies pay for these specific listings to show at the top of your search, so there is more likely someone on the other end going through those applications. For non-sponsored jobs, read through the description to see if it gives explicit instructions about applying through Indeed. The quick apply button doesn't count. Whew. Don't apply to anything more than 2 weeks old. Man, I'm just like, because I wish I'd have known this stuff when I was applying for jobs. Don't apply to anything more than 2 weeks old. If the posting is being monitored, it may be nearly filled, overrun with applications, or focus has moved from checking this posting to another. We are human after all. Old and filled positions are nearly impossible to take down, so most are just left to time out through the site. This takes around 6 weeks. Use Indeed as a resource to find job postings, but then go directly to a company's website to search for the job and apply directly with them. You'll get much more information about the company and the role if it is still vacant, and increase your odds that an actual person sees your resume. Speaking of resumes, do not use Indeed's resumes to apply for anything, ever. They are terrible. Sure, they're better than nothing, but they likely share more information than you want to, are not tailored for anything, and show you lack any computer skills or creativity. Indeed and similar sites can be beneficial, but as with most things on the internet, be skeptical. Hopefully, this gets you out of recruiting hell. So, yeah, Indeed is terrible. Indeed has been terrible. Any resources Indeed provides you are terrible because Indeed is a money is profit driven. Well, it's like the dating sites, right? Indeed makes money based on desperate job seekers applying for hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of jobs. A lot of these online job sites make money based on you applying for hundreds of jobs, just trying to get anything to stick. So they hit you with listing after listing after listing, and that's literally how they make their money is the traffic, the sheer amount of traffic to those sites. You know, just like how dating sites pay money to keep you single and desperate. Because let's be honest, there are some success stories of people getting on dating sites. And on the whole episode I did dedicated to it, I did talk about how there are some success stories. But at the end of the day, it's a profit driven market. They are paid to keep you on the app. And what keeps you on the app except being single and lonely for dating sites and being jobless and desperate for sites like Indeed or Way Up or Snag a Job or any of those other online sites. And I've got another article here, again, that'll illustrate more of the point. This is a Medium article. Why resumes are dead and how Indeed.com keeps killing the job market. A lot of people have a lot of problems with Indeed. This was in 2023, September 14th. And it's by Paul Fuhr, Fur. My experience with losing a year and my mind to job search limbo. When you're unemployed, or between jobs, as the comfortably employed say, your job is looking for a job. If you've been there, you'll know that when it's not terrifying, this particular job is a soul stifling, always online slog with no stock options or insurance. The one and only benefit and or perk is that you can work from home. For over a year, I've navigated the job hunt landscape with a sort of delusional optimism generally reserved for that one friend, trademark, who really believes a stripper loves them. Now, it's pretty early to be dropping an Einstein quote, but I'm doing it anyway, especially since I'm not even sure it's really his quote. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. And I'm sure you've heard this before, but it perfectly captures the endlessly repetitive, self doubting process of applying for work day after day and getting absolutely nowhere. That's why I'm 100% positive that the modern day job search can and will drive someone straight to insanity. Find new job listing, read job listing, submit application to job listing, repeat. Right now, searching for a job in America means you're part of a wildly and almost hilariously broken process. I've experienced more false leads, dead ends, scams, sadness, and silence than your average Facebook marketplace interaction, and it's only getting worse. If you currently have a job, congratulations, for real. But if you've held that job for a while, you might have forgotten, for good reason, the challenges leading up to that job. Whatever path you took from oh shit to thank God is no match for what job applicants currently face. In fact, America's job market increasingly feels like it's working against its applicants, and that's because it is. The Bureau of Labor Statistics reports that 6.4 million people are currently unemployed as of September 2023, adding that there are also 8.8 million available jobs. Even if you factor in the COVID burned me out, so I'm not interested in a job contingent, there are still a million more jobs than there are job seeking Americans. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying every open job out there is a golden, desirable, or tailor made opportunity. But no matter how you cut it, that's a pretty staggering figure. And for people looking for work, it's not just discouraging data, it's almost downright devastating. When you're out in the cold, those are the kind of numbers that will eventually make you feel like you're the problem. Rest assured, you are not, and you are not alone. And that's just part of the article. A lot of this will be linked in the description so you can check it out for yourself. But those are just a few issues with Indeed and online job applications as a whole. But there's an even bigger, more frustrating problem with online applications that I want to bring some attention to. Ghost jobs. They're like Ghost Dad, but even less funny somehow. This is a builtin.com article kind of talking about the issue. Ghost jobs. What are they and how to spot them? Written by Jeff Rumage in September 17th of 2024. Job seekers spend hours filling out online applications, tailoring their resumes, and crafting thoughtful cover letters, which is why it can feel so dejecting when they don't hear back from employers. While this lack of response may be a symptom of a competitive talent market, new data suggests some of those jobs never really existed in the first place. Ooh, spooky. Ghost job. What are ghost jobs? Ghost jobs are online listings for roles that are not actually available. Companies might post a ghost job to gauge the talent market. I don't know why I can never pronounce it like gauge, the word spelled out. It's not pronounced how it's spelled. I hate English. Anywho, companies might post a ghost job to gauge the talent market, fulfill an internal requirement, or impress investors, but they have no intention of hiring for the position at that moment. As it turns out, these online ads, called ghost jobs, are mere apparitions of actual opportunities. And avoiding them is yet another challenge for job seekers navigating an already competitive job market. So, what are ghost jobs? Ghost jobs are employment opportunities that don't exist. Companies, post this for a variety of reasons. Whatever the reason, the company does not have a genuine intention of hiring the candidate. Nearly 40% of the more than 1,600 hiring managers surveyed by Resume Builder said they posted a fake job listing in 2024. The idea to post these jobs primarily came from human resources teams, followed by senior management and investors. Ghost jobs are not entirely new. Some companies have always posted roles meant for an internal candidate, and recruiters have long posted evergreen roles for general positions that might come available at a future date. So, now you've got more issues. You've got job listings that are posted by the AI of the website that you're applying on or whatever to generate more traffic and get more applications out there because that's how they make their money. Just like how on dating site there are ghost profiles made specifically, by AI of some sort to collect data of some sort. And then on the other end of it, you've got job postings that were never meant to hire anybody at all. That's right. So you could be applying to 60, 70 jobs, and a third of those jobs are going to be jobs that they have no intention of hiring. A third of those jobs are going to be jobs that the company doesn't even know were posted. And only a good third of those jobs are going to actually be viable. And that's if any of them respond back. So and that's just with anything. It's like a triple layer of hell. It's just with anything. It's insidious. It truly is. So now you may be wondering, what's the point in applying online at all? We should all start going in person and speaking to employers directly, right? Wrong. Me and a friend, while I was going to Ball State up in Muncie, we went down the Muncie streets. We went to auto zones, food places, actual like restaurants, McDonald's. We went everywhere. Literally, retail storefronts, auto shops, everywhere, asking if they were hiring. Clothing stores, everywhere. We got some applications that never got responded back to, but for the most part, they took my number and never got back to me. And these are people who even gave me specific times that they would give back to me. And they didn't. They literally did not. They said, "Oh, we'll be back to you next Monday," and nothing. Absolutely nothing. And this isn't just an isolated incident. I'm going to pull up another Reddit thread. This is an r/career guidance by user Network Beam. Does walking in person to a job and handing in your application even matter anymore? I've done this for countless jobs. I've applied online and also made in person appearances, and to be honest, I feel like it's done little to nothing to change the actual outcome of potential employers calling me back. Has anyone else had any similar experience, or do you have any tips to make yourself stand out? It would be much appreciated. Now, we're going to read a couple comments. This is by user Volin Curve, Kurve 17. It's a complete waste of time in this day and age. You hand your resume to someone at the front desk and it never gets to the right person in the organization. Do your research and target the appropriate person or department and send an email. This is by A/underscore spiritual slash art. Nope, nope, we can do this. We can do this. I can read. This is by A_spiritual_ artist. There we go. Oh, Jesus. Why is it so fucked up now? What has happened to humanity and such thing? And then barreled_chef_curry said, I actually had someone do this and it was beyond frustrating. He just walked in and the receptionist sent him to me. He wasn't remotely the right fit for the job and wasted 30 minutes of my time. Hindsight, I should have told him just send in the resume, but I was a new manager. It would be a terrible thing if this was normal to do. So, essentially, what can be gathered from that is that when a job feels like hiring, they'll hire. And when they don't, it doesn't even matter if they have a listing on their website, they just won't. And that could be for a variety of reasons. But the chief reason that I've found, and this is from talking to actual managers, is good old managerial laziness. They don't feel like going through the process of hiring and training a new employee, nor do they feel like actually doing their jobs and making that employee a productive part of the company. So they just ignore new applicants. And again, this is something you will also have to deal with when applying for jobs, right? And it's avoidance, plain and simple. This isn't the only reason, obviously, and every company is different, but this is the truth in a majority of cases, especially in the retail sector. But we'll see more of that later. For now, let's move on to our next section, interviewing. So, you actually got a response back. They want to bring you in for an interview. Good. Finally, a breakthrough. Someone willing to hire you, or at least to give you a chance to appeal to them. Even if the job isn't necessarily the best or your first choice, it's something to pay the bills. And you know how to interview. Your entire educational career has been spent doing mock interviews and other job preparation type shit. The motherfuckers practically drilled the shit into your head. You'll go in, the employer will tell you about the company, ask you questions, and depending on the quality of your answers, you'll be hired. You even know the types of questions you'll get. Tell me about yourself. What relevant experience do you have? Why do you want to work for this company? What drove you to apply to for us in particular? Why should we hire you? You've been rehearsing answers to those questions for years. They're second nature to you, and no one ever told you about anything different. So you walk into the place bubbling with confidence. Nothing's going to shake you because you came prepared. And there's an expectation to be professional, so nothing would dare try, right? Your hopes are instantly dashed as your potential manager comes out and looks at you like you're inconveniencing them for daring to show up to the interview they invited you to. You go through the interview process. Some of the questions are different than you'd expect, but nothing you can't handle. They're just variations on what you've been taught. That is until you get to one of the hardest questions ever devised for an interview format. What do you expect to be paid for this job? It's a seemingly simple question. After all, you know what the job pays as it was listed when you found it online. So you answer with that. You then ask your questions to the interview when he opens up the floor, then the interview concludes and you jet. You then go home, a feeling of hope sitting in your chest, and you wait and wait and wait and wait. Weeks go by and you hear absolutely nothing. The situation perplexes you. They didn't even have the common courtesy to send you a rejection notice. But you know you didn't get the job. You knew after the first week of no response. If this situation at all sounds familiar to you, then you're just like many modern day job seekers. You'd think that something would at least come from the interview, but you get the same level of responsiveness as if you applied online. And maybe it's not this scenario exactly. Maybe it's a phone interview you never hear from, or a Zoom interview you go to all the trouble of looking nice and setting a beautiful background for, only to end up being ignored. Of course, in my case, it's usually not that much work. I'm usually only dressed up from the top, and if you took away the background, you'd see all manner of chaos. But that's beside the point. The question I'm sure you're asking is why? Why can you put all that effort into being presentable only to be ignored as if they never saw you at all? Well, this article here may shed some light. This is a Psychology Today article by, uh, I can't pronounce this fucking name, somebody from Happy Bites, and it was written July 15th, 2024. Uh, Key points. Job interviews only explain 9% of variance in job performance, research finds, leaving 91% unaccounted for. Both structured and unstructured interviews show low accuracy in predicting task specific and broader skills. Unconscious biases heavily influence interview decisions, often overshadowing key job related competencies. Overemphasis on cultural fit can lead to workplace homogeneity and neglect of actual performance capabilities. Essentially, interviews only really cover one part of it, and they don't even have like an accurate prediction of anything. And this is 4 reasons why job interviews are failing us. Imagine you're a seasoned chef tasked with judging a cooking competition. But instead of tasting the dishes, you're only allowed to interview the contestants about their recipes. Sounds absurd, right? Yet this job interviewing process is precisely how we've approached the lion's share of hiring for the past 200 years. Yet a meta-analysis published this week by Wingate and colleagues, 2024, highlights that within a sample of over 30,000 people, job interviews do not in fact predict future job performance. Thus, interviewing someone may not actually help us make better hiring decisions. In light of this, it's worth asking, how much of our hiring decisions are based on evidence and how much are on subjective impressions? Let's explore why interviews are poor predictors of performance and discuss ways to improve hiring decisions. Number one, the illusion of accuracy. Anyone involved in hiring has been there, sitting across from a candidate, convinced we can gauge their potential and predict their performance based on a 60-minute conversation. However, the sobering reality is that interviews only explain about 9% of the variance in job performance. In other words, 91% of what determines how well someone will do in a job is completely missed by the interview process. And you got to consider, too, this is separate from the article, right? You got to consider that most people don't present themselves with their best foot forward. You hear people say all the time, put your best foot forward, put your best foot forward, put your best foot forward. But most people cannot do that. Everybody knows that they have a lot of good traits that would make them qualified for a variety of jobs, but a lot of people don't know how to quite put those into words. So you're just kind of left in a dilemma where somebody is judging you based off of the little that you do put into words, and the rest, the 91% of those other qualities, get ignored. The myth of the perfect interview question. This is the next one. Many of us believe that if we just ask the right questions, we'll uncover the truth about a candidate. We craft behavioral questions, situational judgment scenarios, and technical assessments that we are convinced reveal the perfect person for the job. But research tells a different story. Whether you're trying to assess behaviors, task related skills, or interpersonal abilities, interviews show surprisingly low levels of accuracy. Both structured and unstructured interviews fail to predict a candidate's potential performance. Further, interviews are equally mediocre at predicting both task specific skills and broader contextual behaviors. This suggests that the standard interview format may be too blunt an instrument to capture the nuances of diverse requirements. Interviews are often seen as a one size fits all tool to assess capability in diverse job roles. But is it really possible to use the same tool to assess a software engineer's coding abilities and a sales representative's client relationship skills? And then the article goes on to talk about bias. They can be swayed by how you can be swayed by a candidate's charisma, how you can be swayed by how they present themselves, because sometimes you fall victim to the halo effect. Sometimes it's not that somebody's presenting themselves worse than how they actually are, it's somebody presenting themselves better than how they actually are. And this happens all the time too. Have you ever walked into a store and had a bad customer service experience and wondered how the hell they can keep that person on staff? It's because that person's probably charismatic as hell with the right people. Literally. I mean, that person's probably charismatic as hell with the right people, or they're sucking the right person's dick. You never know which. But it's human bias. It's all human bias. Despite everything everyone has been telling you throughout your educational career, they never accounted for the fact that you can walk into or log on to an interview and not be hired simply because the motherfuckers didn't like the color of your vest or the texture of your jacket or that one time you stuttered. You can be judged as not fit for a job simply because you just existed in the wrong way. You weren't convenient enough of an existence. And because of the amount of candidates applying for one particular job, a lot of times pettiness can be encouraged. And that's not even talking about the other bullshit interview practices, like that one interview style where you like submit a video or a voice recording answering a question, but you're not submitting it to a person, you're just submitting it with your application, and they call that an interview. I've done God knows how many of those and have still gotten dead silence. Imagine going to all the trouble to look nice and dress up and present yourself to something that's not even going to actively give you any input right then and there. It's a highly flawed process. And if you do hear back from the job, there's a chance you could be denied the job for a completely bogus reason, one that you may never know because most employers don't tell you. Now, I do have an article here that goes over some of the highlights of these reasons, though. And this is from, I don't really like this name, but D-Milked. 30 ridiculous reasons people were denied a job, published 2 years ago. Applying for a job can be a frustrating experience sometimes. You go for interviews all hopeful on your best behavior, and things seem to be going well, but finally, in the end, the job is disappointingly not offered to you for some trumped up reason. And here are some of the reasons. You're overqualified for this position, and you aren't likely to stay long term. I was in a seasonal role for 3 months. I was in college and needing a summer job. It's exactly what they asked for. And this is something we've seen before. If you're overqualified, they're afraid you'll leave if you get treated a certain way, and they're afraid you'll demand more money. So they don't want you. Despite the despite the qualifications being listed a certain way, if you exceed that expectation too much, they don't want you. Number two, because I wasn't comfortable sharing a hotel room with someone I don't know for an out of state training. I offered to foot my own room bill, but I was told I wasn't getting the job for not being a team player. The roomie in question, a 40-year-old male, while I was a 25-year-old female and newly married. You see that a lot with these sales positions where you'll have these trainers and recruiters trying to get oddly close with job candidates that they find attractive or something like that, and then when that person is not receptive to it, they're not a team player. So you got to watch out for that. I said I wouldn't leave a $46,000 a year job for $30,000 and no benefits with a promise of more as they grow, but they wanted someone with experience. Seems I wasn't the right fit. Number four, that my answers weren't detailed enough. It was a shelf stacking job in a supermarket, and I already had half a year of retail experience. I'm so sorry that I didn't go through a detailed analysis of how I pick up boxes, take the products out, and put them on display. And this is literally something that I've seen with a lot of retail jobs, where they're demanding that you have like an extremely detailed answer, present like a damn near collegiate level essay. Number five, and we're not going to read all of these, I'm just going to do a couple more. I was too qualified for the job. That's another overqualified. I worked for the company recently, but had to be off for 6 months before I could apply again. Got told my husband almost dying and having a failing liver wasn't a good enough reason to take time off and live off my savings. I'm not hiring you because your Achilles is strained and you need a cane to move around. And many more and many other bogus reasons. It can get down to if you have personal injuries. Like it's so stupid. But let's just say after all that, by some miracle, you do hear back. You find out you got it. Congratulations. A new gate of hell has possibly opened up for you in our next section. Working the job. So you did it. You managed to distinguish yourself from your peers and dodge the ever judgmental eye of your interviewer. You receive a message the following week, either via email, text, or phone call, that you got the job. You bask in your victory. Bills can be paid, groceries bought, fun had with friends, and life resumed once more. You won't be making the most money in the world, and you'll still be living check to check, but anything's better than being broke. You eagerly push through the hiring process, go through the rigorous training, and finally, after 1 to 2 months of being pumped up and having smoke blown up your ass about just how great and easy the job is once you actually get to work it, you're finally at the point where you can actually do it. And the disappointment couldn't be more palatable. I'm going to tell you two short stories from my own experience, and then we're going to conclude. So I worked at two electronic sales companies, one internet, one mobile, one phone company. I'm not gonna say the names of these companies because I don't really want the smoke. But with one, right, I get the job and I train for a month. And during the interview, they're all talking about how all the great benefits of the job. How you can go to Disney World, or I'm sorry, Discovery, and you get this free ticket to this. You get to do this. The health benefits of this. The pay is this plus commission, and it's so good and it's so wonderful, and everybody's such a family until I get into the job. And then after the month long, boring ass training, I finally get on the floor and I can't get so much as a passing glance whenever I need help. I'm going to people, and this is at the internet company, I'm going to people, asking them, begging them to give me some instruction. And they're telling me and they're telling me they can't help me. They're shrugging me off. They're waving me off because they're in the middle of something. And on top of that, like even during training when I was shadowing, I had somebody just tell me to just straight up shut up and shadow. And this is supposed to be a family. And then I find out later, as I'm going to quit the job, that the reason that it was even that hostile in the first place was because nobody wanted to interrupt their sales to help a newbie. Even though we were supposedly making this great base pay plus commission, nobody wanted to interrupt their sales. And then I'm finding out things like people crying in their cars because they didn't make enough sales for the day and all that stuff. And at the cell phone company, oh, it was even worse. I get hired for the job. I go through the training. Everything seems standard. And then I start getting to know my boss a little more, find out he's a textbook narcissist. Textbook narcissist. To the point where he has no level of self awareness. It's all ego. And that's how he conducts his operations. I mean, customers would come in and he'd be more focused with hitting on them than getting sales. I ended up doing most of the work, like reorganizing, restacking things, and and things would just not be good. Like customers would come in complaining, and he would leave us on the floor to handle it while he'd duck his chicken shit ass to the back of the store and just sit and camp and wait. So I was left at just this I was in awe. I was left at a standstill. I was floored, truly. And then that's not even considering all the times that he would like tell me to do things that I wasn't properly trained for, like stuff that he should have been doing, just magic Don, go, do this thing. And then I would be the bad guy for not doing them properly. I would take the fall. Oh, it was a mess. And then when I tried to quit, he did like I left out the building and then he walked up behind me like really close to my back. I almost whooped his ass, I'm telling you. But that's besides the point. The point is, sometimes the job isn't as advertised. So between the lack of training, the egos, and the general BS, you can kind of say, I'm a little bitter. Not too bitter because there is hope, you know? With a consistent presence, patience, guiding your resume, making sure that you're checking to see that the job that you're applying for is actually open, and many more things, you can do it. And then when you start working the job, if you find that it's not as advertised, get out of there. And I know it's hell to have to do it again, but just do it again. Eventually, you will find a job that sticks. As we read previously, there are a million more jobs than there are job seekers. At least one of those jobs has to be the right fit. And that, and I'm personally of the opinion that unless you have some kind of major disability, there shouldn't be an adult alive that doesn't know what it's like to work. I've known a couple grown ass people in my time who have said things to me like, I refuse to work weekends and I'll only work the easy jobs. And they not only don't have a resume and have never applied to any jobs, but they literally are not trying to right now at all. And I'm sorry, but that's just pathetic. Man, woman, or otherwise, you get your ass out there and get your hustle on. The market sucks ass, yeah, but you can't live in this world of fucking negativity. You just gotta play the game. We aren't toddlers anymore, where if something happens that we don't like, we can just ignore it. And our parents are great, but they can only help us for so long. No grown ass man or grown ass woman should be relying on other people for for basic needs like that. That shouldn't be the case. Grow the fuck up. The job market sucks. It's probably going to continue to suck. But at the end of the day, I've known some pretty terrible people who are working. So it obviously doesn't suck too bad. I've known some pretty lazy motherfuckers who have jobs right now. So it's obviously not too bad. You can do it. It's just like dating. The landscape hasn't really changed that much in the last 5 years. It's just gotten more publicly worse. But that doesn't mean that you still can't find something if you're not looking hard enough for it. But, anywho, that's all for today's show. If you liked this episode, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. The articles referenced, as well as my socials, will be linked below. Follow me wherever you can so you don't miss a beat. And we'll be right back here on YouTube next Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. for an all-new episode. You don't want to miss what I have in store. Peace out!